Okay, so in this video we'll be reviewing the Minehead coastal management case study that we studied. Minehead is located in Somerset, which is in southwest England, and we'll start by just thinking about what the key learning points of this example are. Firstly, you'll need to know why the coastal management is needed at Minehead. You'll also need to know, secondly, what coastal management was put into place. And then finally, you'll need to be able to comment on the costs and benefits of the management that was put into place. So in effect, who has won and who has lost from the management? What are the pros and what are the cons? So we'll start by thinking a little bit about Minehead. It's actually the second largest tidal range in the world. Okay, so let's just remind ourselves that it has a large tidal range. Now this has provided advantages and disadvantages. Now the advantages are that it has turned Minehead into a really busy seaside harbour. Okay, it's become very successful at attracting tourists to its attractive seaside resorts. It has Butlins, one of the largest seaside resorts in the country. People go there because of the fantastic scenery, the dramatic scenery. They go there for a beach holiday within the UK. So it's been very good in terms of the tides at creating that kind of environment. The disadvantages of it are that it has made it suffer from flooding. Okay, so let's just think about the advantages. It's a seaside tourist resort. Okay, and actually estimates are that about 55% of employment, that is direct and indirect employment, is somehow connected to tourism. Okay, so this coast has attracted tourists to the area and people have been employed by it, so it's a really important thing for the area. The disadvantages obviously are that it can flood, okay, and it has flooded several times. 1910, 1936, 1992, 1996, these were all big floods of Minehead. And the decision, well, some analysis was done that if they didn't do something about it, if they didn't actually protect this stretch of coast in some way, okay, the damage that they would have to repair, the ongoing costs of repairing the damage of flooding, would be in the region of £21 million. So you can see they've got to protect the employment that has been created, and they've got to try and prevent this massive bill of £20 million to correct the damages that coastal flooding caused. Okay, just going into a little bit more detail about the employment that it's created. Some of the important things along that coast: you've got a big Butlins holiday resort. Okay, you've got aqua splash pool. Okay, and you've got a really large leisure centre. Okay, so holiday makers from within the UK, domestic tourists, are attracted to this part of southwest England to visit those things. So they've got to really protect these assets. There's 55% employment, the buildings, the aqua splash pool, the Butlins, the holiday camp. They've got to protect these things, and they don't want to continue to pay the millions of pounds clearing up from flooding. So what they did was they decided to invest 12.3 million in some coastal defences, and we're going to talk about exactly what they did now. So we'll think about this stretch of coastline by just drawing a very rough representation of what it looks like. Okay, so in 1997, one of the first measures that they did was to build a sea wall. Okay, they built, it was 0.6 meters high, and a special feature of it was that it was a curved sea wall. Okay, now the curved nature of it means that the waves' energy is reflected back. Okay, so it absorbs the wave's energy, but it also pushes it back by its curved nature. They also had large bits of rock at the base of this, okay, which again absorbed some of the sea's energy. This is rock armour, dissipating the sea's energy, so reducing the force against that sea wall. One of the other reasons that they made this a curved sea wall is though that the curved nature meant that people couldn't walk on the top of it, so making it safer. It prevented people walking on the top of it, so it could be dangerous. Okay, that sea wall was actually the bulk of that 12.3 million. A large amount of that cost went into building that sea wall. Another measure that they put into place was that they built 4 rock armour groins. Okay, so let's just label those. They built 4 groins. Okay, now the reason being, what they were trying to do is try to slow down longshore drift, which was operating in an easterly direction. Okay, so obviously longshore drift is taking material along the coast. These groins actually trap material, so preventing it from being transported further down the coast. Okay, one of the advantages of what they did was that materials for this sea wall and the groins had to be transported to the coast. Now, one of the things that they did was that they used the local railway, which is actually a steam railway. It's the West Somerset Railway. Okay, and they used that local railway. Let's put a little diagram of an old steam train. So we've got some steam coming out of here. Okay, they used this old steam train to transport materials to the coast rather than using lorry. Now, the advantage of that was that they had to improve the railway tracks of the old steam railway in order to make that happen. Now, after the improvements were made, that railway had been improved and it's now used by tourists, attracting more tourist income into the local area. Another thing that they did as part of their coastal management was that they did some beach nourishment. Okay, so we know that is adding material, okay, adding sand. They added 2 meters worth of sand at a cost of £2.4 million, okay, to the beach. Now, we know that a nice wide beach will absorb the energy of the oncoming waves, and so will help again protect that sea wall during particularly stormy conditions. Okay. Now, one of the negatives of this approach is that by trapping material here on the Minehead beach, it's actually preventing that material from moving further down the coast. So we actually have an area called Blue Anchor further down the coast, which is now suffering because material is not moving down the coast. It's being trapped up here at Minehead. Okay. One of the other things that they did was that they've actually modernized and improved access to the beach. Okay, so let's just put some people walking towards the beach. People can get much more easily to it. They've made it much more accessible by wheelchairs. They've widened the pathway, the promenade along the beach side, so people can walk a lot more easily. And all of these measures have been put in place in order to attract more and more tourists. Let's just summarize here in the corner some of the advantages and disadvantages that this approach has led to. Okay, so one of the clear advantages is that the area is now much more protected from flooding. Okay, which is good for business. Okay, it reduces the costs of any clear up. Okay, the economy has benefited from this hugely. Okay, because tourists have been able to continue going there because Butlins, the Aquasplash pool, the leisure centre haven't been damaged in any way. The area is now modernised. It's got a much more attractive promenade for people. Okay, it's much cleaner, so more and more tourists have come to the area. And also it's important to remember that where these areas have been modernised, it's not just the tourists who benefit, but it's also the locals. So we've got a much nicer promenade to walk along. The locals benefit from that and can spend their leisure time walking and enjoying those amenities a lot more. We've also got the improvements to the West Somerset railway line, okay, as a consequence of the improved line bringing the materials to the local to the coast. So this has attracted more and more tourists. And as I said, disabled access has been improved to that coast as well, to the coastal pathway. In terms of some of the disadvantages, well, the cost is clearly a disadvantage. A cost of 12.3 million. It's been hugely costly, and some of those costs have had to come out of raising taxes in the local area in order to pay for them. Another disadvantage was that when these seawall, when the groins, when the new promenade was being built, the area was inaccessible to locals, okay? And indeed, for a short period when those works were taking place, local businesses actually suffered, okay? So I can put here, businesses suffered during construction. And indeed visitors were unable to access the promenade. Okay, so promenade inaccessible during construction. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is that not everyone thinks that the seawall, the groins, are nice to look at. Some people actually believe that they have created an eyesore. Okay, so some actually think that the defences look ugly, that they don't look natural, that they're not in keeping with the surroundings, and so they don't like them. At its worst, some houses in the local area whose views have been blocked, okay, by the seawall, okay, have actually found that their houses have depreciated. That means to go down in value, okay. Houses gone down in value because their views have been blocked by that seawall. Okay, so in summary, just review this video to remind yourself of the reasons why the sea defences were needed, what the sea defences were, the seawall, the groins, the beach nourishment, the improvements to the promenade and access to the beach, and then to remind yourself what the advantages and the disadvantages of those coastal management features were.